If you recently broke up with your partner and want to heal after this breakup, because right now perhaps you're kind of stuck, you're lost, you have so many questions that have no answers. Perhaps you're talking with your friends, maybe you're seeing a therapist, but still you feel that it's still confusing. You feel that every time you make one step forward and then the next day 2 steps backwards. This video, I'm going to share with you what I do with my clients. The 4 steps that you have to go through, the 4 things that you have to implement today or this week if you want to heal, if you want to move forward past this breakup. So first of all, why is it so painful? The thing is, everybody, not only you, everybody who has had his or her heart broken will feel this emotional pain, which is, by the way, exactly the same, or which activates exactly the same area in the brain as physical pain. It's exactly the same thing. So for your body, a breakup is processed as if it was physical pain. First of all, that's something I wanted to put right away for you to understand this is normal if you feel so intensely about this breakup. The element and the reason we feel this way, the mechanism, is really around attachment wounds. In other words, and we'll discuss that later in this presentation, it's really those unconscious drivers, the stories we're telling yourself about the relationship. And that person, your ex, took that away from you. It's very hard to let go. Now, the reason you're suffering, you might be thinking it's because of your ex, it's because of the relationship. In reality, and that's why I really wanted to do this video, the reason you're suffering, it's about because you're losing yourself. And if you want to heal, if you want to move forward, what you have to do is to rediscover yourself. What you have to do is reflect. So I know a lot of people, when they call me for either an onboarding session or when we have just a session, first thing they ask me about whether they have any chance of getting back with their ex. They ask me whether they should go no contact, whether they should break no contact. And I understand why you have those questions. Something is broken, I need to fix it. I need to get back to where it was as quickly as possible. By doing that, you're failing to recognize that the first thing you have to do is to reflect. So the 4 things that I work with my clients on is to make an inventory of your past relationships, an inventory of who you are as well. So the idea here is to gain some insight. You will learn things from this breakup. Yes, it's painful. Maybe you didn't choose to break up with that person, but you will learn things from it. Second element is the unconscious drivers, which are, by the way, the ones driving the pain that you're experiencing right now. Third element is to create a nurturing environment. As part of the healing process, regardless whether you get back with your ex or not, it's important to recreate and redesign a life around your needs that supports you. And that creates also the right environment should you want to get back with your ex. And last, not least, the emotional regulation element. So it's basically finding ways and practical ways for you to feel better, more energized. Because I know sometimes people, they just want to have that. I feel a lot of my clients, they can't go to work, they feel, tired. It's very hard for them to wake up in the morning, or they have, sleep disorder, etc. because of that. So there's an element also of emotional regulation. Everything is linked. It's hard for me to pinpoint what would be the most important aspect. It really depends. But every aspect will help the other aspects too. So basically, for instance, when it comes about unconscious drivers, that will also help you with emotional regulation. That will also help you to figure out how to create a nurturing environment. Let's get started. First of all, relationship inventory. What you have to do, and maybe pause the video and take a piece of paper and do it yourself. Analyze the patterns. Analyze the trends from this relationship and potentially from other relationships. And figuring out. The point here is to gather data. Away from the pain of the breakup, away from the I need to get back with my ex. No, take this time to reflect and figure out what are the trends. Figure out the things you need from a relationship. Figure out the things that made you fall in love with your partners. What was different? And maybe see the patterns, but also things that were different. Maybe this past relationship was different than the others. Why? Figuring out why is so important. Because when you do this work, most of the time when we do this work with my clients, they tend to see things, signs, so people will say red flags, that they might have disregarded. Things that they took, oh, okay, I saw this early on in the relationship, but I decided not to listen to that. He or she told me this, and I didn't pay attention at that time. Okay, so figuring out those things helps you right away to put a distance between you and the breakup. And it helps you to shift this narrative or mindset of it's my fault, or it's difficult for him, or they're going through a hard time, to, okay, this is what I want, this is what I need. And I will only get back with a relationship that provides me those things. So that's the relationship inventory. This is a very short way of doing it because I don't want to do like a 2 hours video on this. There are more things on other of my courses if you're interested. Second element is the unconscious drivers. Basically your inner world, the stories you're telling yourself, the belief system. Here it's about discovering your triggers. Why were you triggered when your partner broke up with you? Or maybe throughout the relationship you potentially got triggered, these attachment wounds, whether you're anxious or avoidant. And the exercise is to link those triggers with your belief system. So I just listed 2. For instance, if you have an anxious attachment style, sometimes people have this idea of like, I need to fight to get people to love me, right? And it is basically the way you potentially were with your parents or caregivers when you were younger. You had to fight for their attention. And therefore, as adults, that's what you do. And the thing is, that creates an imbalance, that creates a dynamic potentially unhealthy, whether your partner is avoidant or secure. Maybe it's about assuming that your partner is always has other better things to do than being with you. And again, maybe as a kid, your parents were really busy and you thought you didn't have a place for you in the family or you didn't have a voice. And so you take this belief system around with you in your next relationship. So the point is to use CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, to reframe those thoughts. Not only because I'm telling you, it's because it works. So this is few studies, and I think I pinpoint this one, but there's a lot of studies explaining that CBT is the best tool if you want to reframe those thoughts. Because when you talk about attachment theory and how to develop a secure attachment style, it's really about the cognitive processes. And the beauty with CBT is that not only you have insights about how you function, but it's like the behavioral element. It's about the changes. If you want to get back with your ex, you have to change something. If you want to move on, if you want to move forward, you also have to change something. You have to change this outlook. You have to change those insecurities and build a more secure attachment style. So the method that I use with my clients is what I call the core method. First of all, you clarify your beliefs. Then you observe the patterns. You reframe the negative beliefs and you practice. You empower through practice. This is what I do with every single of my clients. Whether they want to get back with their ex, whether they want to move on, this is how you can reflect and reshape your what we call working models in attachment theory. So you clarify the beliefs, you make clear and making sure that you understand things related to love, trust, okay? Because we all have our definition. Sometimes we think, oh, that's the way it is. No, that's the way you think it is. I have another view, your partner will have another view, people around you will have another view. This is very unique. And so the point is to recognize that uniqueness and figuring out the things that are helping you, the things that are preventing you from being secure. And again, we're analyzing the patterns the same way we analyze the patterns of past relationship. And the approach of CBT is reframing those negative beliefs. Okay? Everything that, so the thing is, the aha moment, or the thing that you need to figure out, to understand is, it's not because you're thinking it that it's true. sometimes our brain will give us fake news. So the point here, and the point of reflecting, the point of looking at those patterns, is to challenge those thoughts. And figure out, because you're an adult now, you're not a 7-year-old boy or girl who just thinks that that's the way it is because my parents are like this. Now you can decide. And then obviously it's really about practice. That's why therapy and having someone on a regular basis to help you build those habits and those new patterns, because it takes a bit of time for neural pathways to get stronger and stronger. It's like a habit. You have to build it over time. The insight element and figuring out, it's very quick. You don't need to spend like years of therapy. Then it's really about how can every single day, having the right support system, having the right tools, you can make it better and stronger and become natural. Third one is nurturing environment. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you want to learn more about this, have a look in the description. There's a link to the Reconnect Method that I developed. And this is one part of the Reconnect Method. Nurturing environment, support system, new activities, self-care routines, healthy boundaries with your ex. So if you look other videos online, when it comes to healing after a breakup, this is what you'll get. Okay, you're just going to get like, oh yeah, fine, hang out with your friends, learn how to play tennis, and buy yourself a massage. This is one part of the element that will give you some sort of release. And also, I think here it's more about how can you design your life around you, be self-centered. And also there's like an element of after a breakup, transitioning from being in a relationship, doing things with your partner, sharing things with your partner, to a new life, different life. And your life, this life, has to be around you, right? Which should be, in a way, giving you more pleasure when you're on your own. So it's about like learning to do those things outside of the relationship. So support system could be friends, could be therapists, could be family, whoever, but don't stay on your own. It's very important, because if you go through this process on your own, this is when you're going to have those negative thoughts. This is also what will prevent you from building a resilience, because studies have shown that sharing how you feel to people develop resilience and help to soothe. New activities is just about bringing a fresh outlook on things, not feeling stuck in doing the same things again and again. So some people say like, get a new haircut or do whatever you feel, but something about novelty. Because novelty would bring excitement, pleasure, and joy. Yes, maybe it's forced, but in a way, you're triggering the right virtuous circle. Self-care routine, again, do things, treat yourself. Now is your time to treat yourself. And healthy boundaries with your ex, it's basically no contact. It's basically figuring out that right now, as you reflect on the breakup, you don't want to be their support system, right? You don't want to be there if they're sad or if they have a problem. You told me that you didn't want a relationship. So find what works for you and with you in terms of boundaries, in terms of communication, in terms of what you want from the relationship with them. So quick word of no contact, by the way. I always recommend a phase of no contact. And I don't recommend it because, this is the strategy to get your ex back. The reason I recommend this is because that creates the right environment to do everything that I described in this video, to work through your working models. So reframe, use the core method to develop more resilience and to be away from the triggering element. Because I know when you text your ex and you're trying to rebuild a relationship, trying to rebuild a form of intimacy, it's like roller coaster. And right now, that's not what you need. That's not what you want. And also, it's important understand that there's a relationship, there's a breakup, there's a phase, a buffer between this and the new relationship, regardless whether you get back with your ex or not. But you have to create a buffer. I know sometimes people would rebound, and sometimes it works out, but ideally, that's not what you want. You want a buffer where you can finally do this assessment, do this inventory, find ways to develop a life around your needs, and then you can find someone, you can shop and find someone that would meet those criteria that will add up to this life that you created, rather than breakup. There's a void. I need to fill that void at all costs because I don't want to experience this buffer. I'm fighting against being in this buffer. No, you have to embrace it. I know it's painful because it's something potentially new. It's not something you decided to experience, but right now you're there and you have to make the most of it. Then around emotional regulation, everything that we discussed before will help you to feel better, will help you to regulate your emotions. So studies have shown that people who have a secure attachment style, for instance, they are sad, they have a hard time dealing with the breakup, but they can self-regulate. They don't have lingering feelings like anxious people. They don't dismiss things like avoidant people, or have emotions that resurface afterwards like avoidant people do. They don't feel anything at the beginning and then that resurface. Having, for instance, a secure attachment style helps you to really process the breakup in the right way. The thing is, so that's more of the long-term effect. And so that's kind of the background work that you have to do. Then I know sometimes we feel we might get triggered. There's something that reminds us of our ex. Maybe we bump into them. Maybe they're our colleagues, etc. And so here, it's finding ways or reactive ways to regulate your emotions. So there are plenty of techniques: breathing, mindfulness, hypnotherapy, grounding technique. The point is to find and test. I can't tell you, oh yeah, if you do this, it's going to work. It's like magic. All of them work. And there's been like dozens of studies on hypnotherapy, mindfulness, and the effect it has on the brain, really affecting the brain. Just like breathing in and out for in for 5 seconds, out for 5 seconds, affects the structure of the brain. So it works, but just find a way that works for you, that easy to use, easy to implement. If it's difficult for you, for instance, like I have tried Headspace and mindfulness. For me, I don't like it. I know some people love it, but for me, it requires a lot of effort. So I prefer hypnotherapy, for instance. But find the ones that work for you. And again, as part of our community and the Reconnect framework, there's plenty of content and things that you can use as well. Whether you want to get back with your ex or not, it's very simple. You have to go through those steps. There's no shortcut. Because if you don't do those things, you will fail to understand what was going on. You will also fail to create the right relationship for you. When I say you have to do the work, that doesn't mean you should be doing this for the next 6 months. Maybe a month or 2 is enough to get enough information about yourself, having tested some emotional regulation tools, having implemented some cognitive reframing protocols. That's enough. I usually don't work with my clients for years. The point is like, how can we put you back on your feet as quickly as possible? A couple of months, 3, 4 months top. And when you do this work, you will realize that was never really about them. That was never really about the things you didn't do or the things that you did. The reason you had a hard time was more about the stories you were telling yourself, the little voices. It was also about the things that you didn't perceive in the relationship, or the meaning you attached to this relationship. Sometimes maybe you were too attracted to the potential, right? Sometimes people, they love the potential. I know he or she can be like this, and I will do my best, and I will help them, and I will be their therapist, and I will fix them so they can be this idealized person. But in reality, they never did. Or maybe it's just a question of like, I needed to understand better my insecurities so I can communicate more effectively. Maybe develop a form of interdependence with my partner, and I can create the right environment for us to be happy together. I will never tell you, if you do this, you'll get back with your ex. there's always an element, always, where your partner, your ex, they also have to decide for themselves. The only thing that you can do, the only thing that I help my client do is to create the right environment. Do what you can control. And at the end of the process, maybe you'll get back with your ex, maybe you won't. The point is, I want you to look back and tell yourself, I've done the right things. I understand things about myself. This was an opportunity for me to grow as a person. And that's why I'm doing this job. That's why I specialize in helping people through breakups, because these are the only moments in our lives where we have the opportunity to finally do this inventory, to work through our insecurities. In other words, to become better persons. On this, let me know if you have any questions. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click on like, that does help me a lot. And subscribe for more. Take care.